All right. Welcome back to Untitled Common Sense. My name's Derek. I'm your host. Just wanted to, as a heads up, tell everybody my bad for the last episode. It was a little bit of a rant, a near crash out, I guess, of some degree. I swear, man, the times we live in are making me angry, man. And I'm not an angry man, so I appreciate you rocking with me during that little rant, but man, it just gets apparent every day. I just don't understand how you can't see the just nobody cares. And when you do care, it's very disheartening. And when you see people embrace not caring, it's even more disheartening. So, hopefully that wasn't too crazy. Hopefully I didn't push you to the brink and be like, oh, this dude is too out there. We're going to bring it back down. Because of that episode, I took a moment to calm myself, reflect, and I was thinking, all right, man, I got to be a little bit on the mark, a little bit more focused. I can't just go through angry, crash out ramblings. So I decided to do a little three-part episodic series for these next coming episodes, detailing my flirtation, if you will, brief flirtation with right-wing thinking. And so, specifically in this episode, I'm going to talk about the Manosphere. There was a brief time, I think around COVID, when I first picked up on the Manosphere, because everybody had a lot of time. They weren't doing nothing. So I was on YouTube. And I saw some content about the Manosphere, or at least I didn't know it was the Manosphere. And specifically, I'm talking about the Black Manosphere. I never really got into some of the main general pop Manosphere, but I did get into some of the Black Manosphere. And I think that has something to do with why it drew me in, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So I started finding guys who were talking about relationships. And funny thing is, I was in a relationship myself, a pretty good one. And so I wasn't necessarily the true demographic. Like, I wasn't unhappy in my relationship. I wasn't in any bad place because of an ex relationship. So I didn't necessarily see myself as the target audience retrospectively. But the content appealed to me because, and I think this is true of most guys, generally for men, there are very few places where you can talk about relationship grievances. Even amongst your friends, you might have a friend here and there who will hear you talk about your heartbreak or your problems, but generally, at least the guys I knew, they weren't really willing to dig deep into that. They much rather talk about who it is you're having sex with or who you're dating, but none of the like emotional stuff like, well, I really like this girl, it didn't work out. Like, nobody really wants to hear that. So I find that like for a lot of guys, especially when you're going through relationship or dalliance after dalliance, you don't have anybody really to bounce off like your more intimate thoughts and ideas out off of. And I think that's what the Manosphere does well. And I think that's how they bring people in. A lot of their content addresses those grievances, and it addresses them in a way that's very, very, very like precise for guys. Like, they don't, they, you can talk a certain way. It's kind of like, I won't say it's locker room talk, but it has that ethos where it's like guys just talking about guy shit. And so I fell into, I started watching some Manosphere guys, most specifically O'Shea Duke Jackson, mediocre tutorials, even watched a few Kevin Samuels. And you know how it goes. You go down one video, suggest another, and you keep going. Better Bachelor was one. And I think for me, the appeal was it was male driven content. And I've never had content that male focused. I think, especially in the online space, there's so many forums I think for women and their grievances and their situations, and women put content for that. And so emotionally, you can go online and find a lot of content. And then just in society in general, I think women do a better job of supporting other women emotionally, and society kind of fosters that. But for guys, you really don't see it. You really, really don't see it. So, that's kind of a clue into why like the manosphere and stuff appeals to younger men and men in general. And I think that's one of the things that right wing thinking does as well. But I'll show you how it ties into the manosphere. So anyway, I'm listening to manosphere stuff. Like I said, I don't really need it. I was good. I've gone through my periods of when I was angry or mad about something. But I will admit it was refreshing to hear other men air their grievances that I could understand and relate with, grievances that I could feel an affinity for. And so I was interested just to see if other men have gone through experiences that I have and to hear their take about things. And, it's it's a thing. It's a very powerful movement, the manosphere, or that segment of the internet. And what it kind of I think if I were a younger man, I could see myself falling into it. It does this really, I won't say it's insidious. I think most of these men come, okay, hold on. I think a lot of the top influencers probably are grifter adjacent. They see other men and they see a way that they can appeal to them and make money off them. But I do think the underlying ethos of it comes from a good place ish. But I could definitely see why young men get into it. It not only and I think this is a key point as to why right wing media is so powerful, because it does these things that the manosphere does. It appeals to your grievances. Whatever community you are and you have a grievance, that content will appeal to your grievance. It will understand you in ways that the general population won't understand. I gotta get rid of that. It will, allow you a space to meet other people who are feeling the same way. A lot of the guys don't talk down to their audiences. They accept that these are the things you need to do, and they do it in a way that's like really, really just like simpatico to like being a guy. But the second way that they do this is that they always pair that grievance, that listening of grievance, that airing of grievances with some type of aspirational or motivational direction. So in the case of the manosphere, you're upset about the state of dating and the women you're dating and how dating is not happening and how women treat you, vice versa. But you also get this other component where they say, okay, all that's true. We recognize that, but what are you going to do to yourself? And that's where you get the self-improvement. And it tells you, you know what, you're going to have to work out. You're going to have to up your game in your job level. You're going to have to focus on yourself and improve yourself. And it's an interesting duality, these two pillars, right? Because on the one hand, you got a space where you can complain, you can gripe, you can be upset, you can rage at the world, and people are there to understand and listen to you, which is immensely attractive for anybody, not just man, woman, left, right, whatever. Just being in a space, it's a safe space of some degree. Being in a space where you can like lick your wounds and other people understand is like incredibly attractive. And then once you get there, they're like, well, we can't just stop here, because now we're going to give you some actionable items for change. We're going to give you a goal that you can work to so that everything comes together. So what you get with the manosphere is that you get to emotionally unload, and then you get to rebuild yourself with kind of like a direction, a guide, like get fit, get more money, start advocating for yourself, start investing in you, start, improving aspects of your life, because it's very aspirational. The manosphere gives you a very aspirational game plan when you're watching it. So you're watching it and they're complaining and talking about women are this, and, they're saying that, women are looking for high value men and blah, blah, blah. And they kind of indoctrinate you with like these I won't say they're gems, but these nuggets of information that if you follow, then you will be on the road to like extricating yourself from this hell, and your grievances will then flip and you'll be the one who can determine your own course. So like when you see those two pillars in action, it becomes like super, super, super crazy, super crazy. And it's very, very seductive, very seductive. I would suggest anybody go just check out some of the Manosphere videos. Like now, people have gotten to be parodies and characters of themselves, but some of even the moderate people, like the stuff they tell you is like stuff that you might have agreed with. Like, you know, if these women are going to feel and treat you as a commodity, then you got to do it right back. And it's subtle and it has a common senseness to it, but ultimately, and here's where I preface it, ultimately it just kind of leads you to the opposite of what you're looking for. You go to these videos looking for ways to improve yourself and your situation. You're having trouble with women. You might also be having trouble with your own self-confidence. So it hits those two areas. It gives you a playbook on what you can do to succeed. But a lot of the advice tends to be not constructive. One of the things that helped me when I was feeling angry and upset after, you know, some girl that I might have loved or liked dumped me or, you know, didn't want to be with me, was that period of self-reflection where you are mad at the world. It happens. You just are angry, especially if you've been out dating and you wonder why I'm not good enough and what do I need to do. And I've been through it all. Like I try to change myself for women and things like that. But ultimately, what helped me was realizing I went through, it wasn't even a breakup, but I had a girl that I really, really, really liked, really liked. Like I was thinking like, yo, this could be the one. And she dumped me. Never really got a reason, but I think the main reason was that she just found me lacking, which happens, you know? We are all people and we want different things and we're going different directions. And if you can't find somebody who's on that page, sometimes they just become more of an impediment than an actual, like, you know, help towards that goal. But it left me feeling bad because I really, really liked her. I saw a future in her and stuff like that. But that breakup and that pain and that anger that I had during that time, and it took me a while, maybe like a year really to like start picking myself back up. It put into sharp perspective all the things I wasn't doing for myself. So in a weird way, it was its own manosphere, like red pill type deal. On the one hand, I had the grievance, I had the anger, I was upset. I started broadly painting women as a certain way, and they only want this, and they want guys who got money, and da da da, and stuff like that. But on the other hand, because I didn't have a playbook or nobody to, because I was dealing with a lot of this internally. My friends didn't really care. They just didn't understand, and nor did they really want to care. So I really felt isolated and alone. And when I'm saying, if I had the manosphere back then, like who knows where I would be. But luckily for me, being alone, the pain that I felt and the depression and feeling bad about myself kind of shone a light on a bigger aspect that I wasn't getting. The main thing for me was that I had a poor idea about myself. And I think this is a fundamental thing that happens with a lot of young men is they ultimately have a poor idea of themselves. They may not have, but through dating and their different failures, they end up feeling bad about themselves. And what the manosphere does is it just tells you, you feel bad about yourself, this is what you need to do, these women are horrible, blah, blah, blah. And while it's good to have that guidepost, I think there's something to be said about really internalizing and thinking about your pain and where your life is getting you and what your role in that is. And that's what really shined a light on me. I realized I wasn't really valuing myself. If I was willing to change myself for a woman and all this, and I felt like my life was so bad because I didn't have a woman, then ultimately I'm thinking, me by myself, I'm not worth anything. My value is only as good as the person who's next to me. And when that clicked, man, it blew my mind. I started thinking like, man, I'm placing too much on these women. I'm placing too much on the idea of these women. And then I had to think about, do I really love these women, or am I just using it as something to make myself feel good? Like, am I really wanting to be somebody, or is it more just like I'm trying to maintain this idea I had of myself? And once I started looking at things like that, I think I was properly able to deal with my feelings. And what the Manosphere does not do is it still addresses the grievance. It talks about the grievance, but it doesn't healthily address them because it never puts into context the woman. Like, not all women are gold diggers. Not all women judging men on these criteria and lists. That's just a generalization that, the media and the internet, hyperbolizes, because that's what the internet does. It just multiplies small sentiments and make them feel bigger. But in this case, because I was alone and I had no echo chamber to bounce these off of, I had to find ways of, like, why is this not working? And when I finally took the look at myself, I was able to find the real answers. And I think what the Manosphere takes away from young men is that growth. Like, at some point you have to look in the mirror and be like, yo, how did I fuck up? How did I, like, not see this? How did I let myself get to here? Or what did I do to not make this a done deal? What did I do to ruin this? And that's beneficial. And I think the Manosphere does not give that to young men. It gives them, it hears them, it sees them, it gives them a plan of action, but it doesn't have them really deal with what they're feeling internally about women. And it then makes women this eternal enemy that you always have to be combative against. And I think that's something that you see a lot with the right wing. The right, like, not so much regular conservative, but this new reactionary right wing that's like, let's take MAGA for existence. MAGA has a grievance. They feel like the government has left them down, that America's leaving them behind, that, all the elites are just caring about all these other disenfranchised people who are minorities and not them. Grievance. But then they have this actionable part, which is the vitriol, the hate, the willingness to crush all this stuff that the elites and these liberals love and make this country back to what it was. There goes the actionable part. But in between, it doesn't really get to the root of the problem, or it doesn't cause MAGA and these right-wing conservatives to look at themselves and say, how was I part of the problem? Yes, the government has been doing things that didn't necessarily help me. Yes, there are politicians who say one thing and do another. Yes, there's the internet that's telling me this one thing, like all these things that are creating these grievances, but they're not dealing with their culpability. Could you, do you need to be somewhere else? Did you do all you could to extricate yourself? Were you being as honest with yourself about some of the things you feel? Like, I get you want America great again, but at the expense of everything that's been built, that doesn't make you win. Is just like, you can't run a country like this. And it's not a adult way to handle adversity. You don't just retaliate. You just don't, like, destroy everything. You do have to look at what are some of the things that I did that helped me cause this. Who are some of the politicians I voted for that did not do what they say? Who are some of the causes that I supported that did not help, that ultimately did not come through in the way they did, can I help myself accountable? Was I looking for a quick payday when I should not have been? Things like this. And I think that's what the right wing does well. It fans your grievance, and then it gives you a plan, like attack, go against them, destroy all of this so that we can win. You can feel the victors, but it's a hollow victory. It's too retributive. It's too vengeful, because at the end, yeah, you might get rid of all the liberals and stuff, but like some of those people were your friends, or the country's no longer the same, and you give your loyalty to a person who you think he's on my side because he's saying all the things I feel, but he's doing all the things that you know in your heart aren't right and aren't good. And so I see a lot of parallels, and that's how I mentioned the Manosphere is very, like, right wing adjacent. It uses grievance, to direct people in a certain way of thinking, usually at the betterment of the people who are espousing the ideas, because everybody's feeling aggrieved some way. And if you can harness that, you can unfortunately make a lot of money. And a lot of red pill people seem to be right wing adjacent because the right wing kind of allows for that thinking. They all follow the same mode. You know, there's a grievance out there and we need to fight for how it used to be. And in the manosphere, how it used to be was men are on top, women knew their place, they were at home having kids. They didn't worry about working and stuff like that. They want to go to a traditional time where people perceive, oh, it must have been great because women didn't work and everybody was submissive and things like that. Not knowing, like, even though a lot of those societal features were in place, it wasn't a great time. You know, you got like people drinking because they're with somebody they don't love. You got children being abused. You have people cheating rampantly. You had a lot of mental health, like not being able to be who they are and express themselves the way they want because this union says that you can't do this. Like so many women who couldn't be as great as they are because they had to be at home and make babies. It's just until you've been oppressed, like really, or repressed, when somebody tells you you can't do something, you really just, you don't understand how crappy that feels to just be told you can't do this, you can't do that. And then for no good reason other than I just want to be on top, you know? So that kind of, I think it's in that way that you really see this mirroring of the manosphere and the right wing. And I think this was my first, and I do rightly believe it was my first flirtation with the right wing. Now, eventually I saw through the guys. I just got tired of their griping. It was always about, you know, women are like this, women are like that. And I was like, that's not true. I know plenty of great women. And they don't think that way. Most women don't think that way. I've seen too many people in relationships where I'm like, nah, they don't think that way. Like my mom's a great woman. I won't say she resembles anything like how the people online, you know, say women are. And even the women who are like that, I'm not generally attracted to them. If you like that type of woman who's got lists and stuff, that's for you. Even the woman that I mentioned earlier who broke my heart, ultimately, I think we were not meant for each other. She is a much different person than me. And I was able to see that finally once I got out of my hurt feelings in my way. And, you know, I also have a daughter, so I can't go around just thinking women are just hateful creatures and they're very superficial and, you know, their opinions don't matter. It's just, it just is untenable. You can't live that way. And I'm just going to be angry the rest of my life and unpleasant, and nobody wants to be around that. So I think, you know, once I did the growing up and once I became a little bit more mature in my thinking, it worked wonders. But I have to say I was lucky because I didn't have the echo chamber the way it is now on the internet. The manosphere hadn't taken off when I was young and hurt and impressionable, that I didn't fall into that thinking because they're saying all the things I felt at the time, all the things. And all it takes is one person who'll be like, yo, that brother's got the right idea. And I even remember being in that time and saying some things that kind of mirror what they say. That's why it's so visceral and so attractive, because you feel like, yo, I'm not the only one. I feel heard. I feel seen. And I think that's what the right does so well in many different lanes. The manosphere is just one because the manosphere harkens back to a more conservative view of relationships between men and women, one where it is hierarchical. Men are on top, women are subservient. All the manosphere dudes are about money. Generally, when I've heard them talk about politics, they are very conservative in their thinking. So you can see how like very innocuous things just end up leading to right-wing thinking. And I think that's where left-wing, you know, internet needs to start really attacking. We need to have people on the left who can innocuously do that same thing to promote their values, because the right is just, they're like a virus. They're just everywhere and in so many places that you would never think to see. You know, that's why parents really don't know what their kids are watching, because on the one hand, the facade looks like, oh, just normal kid shit, but on the other hand, they're talking about, oh, you got to riz these girls up and I need my girl to be a trad wife and stuff like that, and you just never know. So it's definitely something that you know, I found interesting. And when I finally realized that I was like down like a right wing conservative rabbit hole, I was like, man, that's interesting. They got me real easy. It was very natural. It was like a smooth operator. It was like, if I was out in a bar and some girl walked up and said all the right things, I'm like, damn, man, she's shorty hot, man. She's saying all the right things. It was like that type of smooth where it was like, I didn't even see it coming. But luckily, I had evolved past that it didn't work on me because a lot of the content, like while it did scratch a grievance that I may have had or old wound that I may have had, that is long since gone. And after a while, I was just like, I just don't like it. It's just kind of cruel. It's petty. It's vindictive. It reduces women. Like it takes the fun out of dating women and being with women. It makes them seem like very unfun creatures. It makes them seem like that when, dude, the best thing in the world you could do is fall in love. Best thing in the world is a fresh relationship with somebody who's different, who challenges you, who makes you want to get up in the morning. Those are fun things. And you have this whole segment of the internet over there taking all the joy and love and sunshine and brightness and light out of it. And like if you remove that pillar of love and light from your heart, oh my God, your life will not be the same. Fall in love once. And even if you got your heart broken, just remember when your heart wasn't broken. It's fantastic. Love is one of the best things on earth. It's better than any drug. If you really love somebody and that initial period where you guys are just about each other, fantastic. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. Recommend it for everybody. And I think if a lot of these young men have cases more like that and have more experiences where you meet young women who you vibe with, even if it doesn't work out, but you vibe with, and for that period of time, you guys are like cool, dude, you'll have a lot less of this. Stop worrying about trying to come up, trying to get one over on somebody, being the boss. Just, be in a relationship, be with somebody, and have pride in yourself. Failure does not mean you are, you failing does not mean you're a failure. It doesn't. For any young man out there, you're not a failure. It may take a couple tries, but hey, a lot of things in life do. But when you do meet the right woman, it all falls into place. It clicks. And you'll be like, this is where I should have been. So, keep going. Manosphere, I don't think is right for you. I don't think for men. I think men need a different space where they can go and get a different version of manhood that's healthier. You don't have to be a wimp or a sissy to be expressive and emotive, to care about people, to be considerate. This idea of this macho alpha dude, a lot of guys can't do that. You're not that guy. I'm not that guy. I'm not this alpha bro who's like totally brolic and swole and just like might makes right. I'm just not cut out that way. So me trying to be that way is just only going to end in more frustration and failure. And that's why you see all these tryhards in that space. They're just angry and like, oh, I'm big. Oh, I got money and women need to submit. It's like, dude, I don't want a submissive woman. I want somebody who's going to challenge me. I want somebody who can do their own thing that you don't have to babysit. You want somebody who's like equal partner, who's got your back. If I'm going through this journey called life, I want somebody who can saddle up and ride with me. I don't want anybody that I got to carry along. That's not what I'm about. You want people who are additive, So, that's just my take. But like I said, this was my first flirtation with the right. Tomorrow, or our next video, I'm going to tell you about my second flirtation with the right. This one will probably be a little bit funnier too, because they got me again. But yeah, that's the end of this video. It went a little bit longer, but I think it's a little bit more focused, a little bit more grounded. I'm not crashing out. So hopefully you will enjoy this, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.